Hi, it's Coffeeco and welcome to a new video. So today is another one of my single character deep dives. Yes, I'm not in cosplay. I simply didn't feel like it. I am really tired today. I slept very weird and I've cosplayed Remus like back to back multiple times already in the last like under 2 weeks. Remus is here in spirit. Remus Lupin is known as being the most popular Marauders character. He's a character who's never lost popularity among the multiple different eras of this very long-standing fandom. Remus is a character who is truly irreplaceable and stands out among the rest of the cast for purely being so iconic. Today I'm going to break down Remus's character and analyze every part of him under a microscope. Remus John Lupin was born on March 10th, 1960 to Lyle and Hope Lupin. Instantly, explaining his life gets hard because the imagining of his parents and home life is wildly different depending on what you're reading and whose headcanon it is. In some fics, his mother has passed but he has a dad. In others, both of his parents are gone. Generally though, Remus was born into having issues with his family, mainly his dad Lyle. His family is often portrayed as lower income, regardless of how many alive parents he has. When Remus was 4, he was bitten by the werewolf Fenrir Greyback. Boo! We hate him. This wasn't an isolated incident and was actually a targeted attack by the werewolf because Remus's dad Lyle was an open hater of werewolves and worked in the ministry to diminish their rights. It was basically revenge on him. Being bitten, Remus suffered with lycanthropy, the condition of being a werewolf, for his whole life. His father was never accepting of him after this, unfortunately. His hatred of werewolves extended to his own son as well. But in fics where Remus's mother is still alive, his mom loved him unconditionally, so there's at least that. When Remus turned 11, he started attending Hogwarts and was sorted into Gryffindor House. While on the Hogwarts Express, Remus meets 3 other wizards, James Potter, Sirius Black, and Peter Pettigrew. The 4 boys instantly became good friends. While at Hogwarts, Remus tries hiding his condition from both his friends and the faculty at the school, scared of the reactions he might get and expulsion. However, Dumbledore is all-knowing and sets Remus up in the Shrieking Shack, a building in Hogsmeade known for being extremely haunted. The school nurse, Madame Pomfrey, also knows about his condition and helps Remus recover after full moons. Remus attempts to keep this all a secret from his friends, but Sirius figures it out almost immediately, followed by James and Peter. The 3 boys confess to Remus that they know and that they still accept him, and it brings the 4 closer together. It also makes Remus feel a lot more comfortable with the other boys, and he opens up a lot more after this incident. At some point between first and second years, these boys learn the word Marauder and dub themselves the Marauders because they think it sounds cool. Fair enough. It's also at this time that the 4 of them start working on altering Remus's Hogwarts school map to show where everyone is in the castle, later to be called the Marauders map. Around Remus's 3rd year at Hogwarts, he starts becoming closer friends with the Gryffindor girls in his year, Marlene McKinnon, Mary McDonald, and especially Lily Evans. He bonds with Lily over their shared love of books and reading. Lily ends up working out that Remus is a werewolf, but doesn't tell him, silently accepting him. In their 4th year at Hogwarts, Remus and the Marauders finish working on the Marauders map. They use said map to get up to mischief around the school. Between his 4th and 5th year, Remus starts, kind of begrudgingly at first, holding study groups. The other students in Hogwarts around him slowly end up going to him for help with their schoolwork because he's so good at it, and eventually so many people come to Remus that he decides, with the help of Lily, to just form a study group. Also, everyone around him constantly is praising him on how good he is at teaching things. I wonder if that comes up later in his life. In his 5th year, Remus becomes a Gryffindor prefect, and his friends make fun of him for it. During 5th year, the Marauders also complete their research into becoming illegal animagus and transform into a black dog, deer, and rat during full moons to help keep Remus company. Also, during 5th year, Remus comes to terms with his sexuality, and then once he realizes he's in love with his best friend Sirius Black, Sirius betrays him by letting Snape know how to get to Remus as he transforms into a werewolf. Remus would have unknowingly ended up offing Snape if James hadn't been alerted to the situation and saved both Snape and Remus. This is known as the prank. Eventually, after a while, Remus finally forgives Sirius, and then they slowly start doing something about their feelings for each other, and typically start dating around their 6th to 7th year at Hogwarts. While Remus attends his 7th year at Hogwarts, the First Wizarding War is beginning to fully break out. The Marauders all decide that after they graduate from school, that they're going to join the Order of the Phoenix to help fight Voldemort. While still in high school, Dumbledore enlists Remus's help with the werewolves, and Remus ends up going on a few pretty dangerous missions to try and persuade the other werewolves to get on their side. Today I don't have root beer, I have Diet Coke, which doesn't have a fun meme. In 1978, Remus and the Marauders graduate from Hogwarts, and this is where Remus's life takes a bad turn. Sirius and Remus move into a flat together in London, But the war causes Sirius to be gone all the time on missions, and Remus is often left behind. He begins growing isolated from his friends, and his relationship with Sirius takes a hit around this time. Remus ends up unfortunately feeling lonely and kinda useless during the end of the 70s, his mental state not being the best. He finds respite in spending the holidays with his friends, as it's the only time all of them are able to come together. But as the war continues and the years pass, more and more of Remus's friends also pass. Marlene followed by Dorcas in 1979, Alice and Frank in the early 80s. During the 80s, it's pretty fair to say that Remus Lupin is not having a good time. The Order ends up discovering that they have a spy, and Sirius and Remus both think that the other is said spy. In their last few months together before 1981, the couple is distant from each other, not trusting the other anymore. At this time, Lily and James have gone into hiding, so Remus hasn't seen them either in a very long time. On Halloween of 1981, Remus is finally out on a mission with the other werewolves, so he's not around as his entire life explodes. When he gets back from his mission, he finds out what has happened over the past few days. And to explain what has happened, Lily and James have been offed, Peter betrayed them and is the reason why they're gone, and Sirius is framed for this and is in Azkaban. Yay! Marauders lore is so fun. With all of his closest friends gone and his boyfriend seemingly responsible, Remus stops engaging with magic. He shuts himself off from the wizarding world completely. He tries to occupy his time by getting muggle jobs and attempting to move on. Remus has a rough 80s. By the time the 90s roll around, Remus is jaded and tired. He tried to move on from his previous life and friends, but he's never fully able to. His life forever entwined with the Marauders. In the early 90s, Dumbledore comes knocking on Remus's door. This is the first time Remus has interacted with anyone from the wizarding world in over a decade. His old professor comes offering Remus a job at Hogwarts as the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. Remus contemplates this for a while, tempted to say no. He, however, eventually does agree and returns to Hogwarts for the first time since 1978. Teaching in Hogwarts isn't very easy for Remus. Everything reminds him of his late friends. The stairway where he had his first kiss with Remus, the Black Lake where he and the Marauders would swim in at night, the Forbidden Forest where he and the Marauders would roam as animals every month. Remus can't get his mind off of his friends, and to make matters worse, Sirius broke out of Azkaban and gets sighted around the castle. His loneliness and pain begins to ease once Remus discovers the truth of what happened that night in 1981. When Harry tells him that Peter was seen on the map, he works out what really happened and then reunites with Sirius in 1994. Sirius then lies low at Lupin's, which means he lived with him for a year, presumably at their London flat, which Remus never got rid of, until 1995 when they move into the Black family house and offer it up as headquarters for the Second Order of the Phoenix. Remus's life actually starts looking up again, having Sirius back and becoming closer with Harry. Until Sirius fucking dies, and Remus is once again left alone. Let this man be happy for once, I'm begging you. Remus tries to keep himself busy while the Second Wizarding War picks up, helping with the Order. He fights in the Battle of Hogwarts and gets offed in May of 1998. He outlives all of his friends as he is the last to pass. Remus never even makes it to his 40s. Good God, what a fun history. Also, yes, most of that was all the young dudes. And I'm fully considering Wolfstar canon. A note before I start is that I'm going to describe how his personality is currently viewed in 2025, but trust that I will be mentioning his old characterization and personality later in the video. Remus Lupin is a complicated man, but to start, he is kind and understanding. Remus is a great listener, preferring to listen to others' troubles more than open up himself. He's able to give a lot of comfort to those around him without even realizing it. He's very insightful and wise, bringing his friends back down to earth and tethering them when their prank ideas get a little bit too illegal. Along with being wise, Remus is smart, but his intelligence is something that he actively works hard at. Whereas academic success comes naturally to James and Sirius, Remus is always reading and studying, trying to better himself. Remus has had a hard life, one lacking the many privileges those around him have had. He's dealt with a handful of prejudices from his condition to his sexuality, and has learned to work twice as hard as everyone else just to be seen as equal. And Remus is a very hard worker, putting in a lot of effort when he wants to. Another part of Remus is that boy can be mean. He is sarcastic, dry, and snappy. Remus can and has been described as grumpy. He is quick-witted and has a short temper. He's understanding, but can only take so much before he snaps. Remus's hot-headedness and grumpiness also tends to get worse before full moons. Remus is a chronic overthinker, overthinking most interactions he has. Same. He always tries to be very aware of his actions and words, caring deeply about the feelings of those around him. This is also why when he snaps out of anger, he can feel really guilty for the things that he says sometimes. Remus is also an old soul at heart. His favorite hobby being reading and sleeping at 17 years old. He constantly wears sweaters referred to as grandpa sweaters, which, yeah, that fits. Whereas the people around him are very excitable about Hogwarts and new experiences in youth, Remus is skeptical and only participates in things he actually wants to do. He's typically viewed as more mature than the other Marauders, partly because of his life experience. The biggest and most popular fan cast for Remus has always been Andrew Garfield. Most Marauders and Wolfstar edits you'll see will have Andrew in them. This fan cast specifically comes from the movie Never Let Me Go and is also how I always picture his character. Andrew Garfield as Remus rose to popularity specifically in the early 2010s in the Marauders Tumblr fandom. The second most common fan cast for Remus is a New Era one, Matt Hitt as Remus. This fancast started rising to prominence in the 2020s on TikTok. Remus is a character in the Marauders who has changed quite a bit over the years, but a few things are always the same when it comes to his features. Remus has brown hair, brown eyes, and scars all over his face. The specific color of his hair is up to whatever shade you personally picture. For me, I view him as having light to medium brown hair, but other portrayals of Remus see him as a dark brunette. His eyes are always brown, and he always has facial scars. These are canonically in the movies and come from Remus turning into a werewolf. These days, Remus is commonly depicted as a person of color, despite his mainly white fan casts. Though I've always found it hard to pin down which specific ethnicity people view him as. Whatever, that's not gonna have a clean take, but I literally can't. I do believe that some headcanons see him as Middle Eastern though. Let me know your thoughts on what his background is. I would love to finally have like a solid answer. Remus was one of the first Marauders characters ever introduced, and continues to be one of, if not the most popular character out of the cast. He was first introduced in the Prisoner of Azkaban book in 1999, and continued to be a side character in the rest of the Harry Potter franchise. Seeing as this fandom is literally built on ships, the thing that popularized Remus was being in a pair. Between 1999 and 2004, the iconic ship known as Wolfstar was being born. This ship basically pioneered the whole Marauders fandom along with Jilly at the time. It's the pairing between Remus, Wolf, and Sirius, Star. As the years passed and the Marauders fandom became bigger, Remus and Sirius basically cemented themselves as two of the most popular characters, something that has still not changed till this day. Remus's name trends on Google basically all the time. He peaked whenever a new Harry Potter movie came out, but his graph never actually declines. Remus stays relevant and known throughout the entire time this fandom has been alive. His name does, however, spike again around the 2020s with the new era of TikTok Marauders fans. Because Remus has been a relevant character for multiple decades, his perception has changed with each new era of Marauders fans. Notably, he used to be characterized very differently before 2017. This old characterization can be traced back to the very first popular Wolfstar fanfiction called Casting Moonshadows, which was written in 2007. It was this fanfiction that created a lot of notable Wolfstar tropes and cliches that we still see till this day in Wolfstar fanfiction. For an example, Sirius wearing a leather jacket. In this fanfiction and era of the fandom, Remus's personality was a lot more soft than it is now. He wasn't mean and hot-headed, but instead shy and quiet. Remus always had light brown hair with no exception and was more soft-spoken. He didn't start confrontation and was quite literally a soft boy. He was soft boy Remus. He had sweater paws and liked hot tea and reading. Okay, to be fair, he still likes hot tea and reading, but he used to do it in a much more ooh soft Tumblr boy way. Remus was viewed as a much more submissive character than he is today. I also want to add that I think Andrew Garfield being a giant part of Remus's appeal in the 2010s helped cement soft boy Remus, because Andrew Garfield does not give mean and hot-headed in the clips that were often used to portray him at the time. This change in characterization is a rough spot for the Marauders fandom, as some older fans, I say as someone who was literally there for this era and was introduced to this character as Softboy Remus, as some older fans disagree with the new, harsher Remus. I will admit, because I am old and have been in this fandom for too long, that initially I hated Mean Remus. It didn't feel right to me and felt totally out of pocket, but after reading 500,000 words of all the young dudes, I changed my mind and am now a big supporter of Mean Remus. With how popular of a character Remus has been and will continue to be, I wouldn't be surprised if he continues to have changes in characterization in the coming years. It's honestly very interesting to see different eras of fans have wildly different perceptions of the exact same fictional character. Everyone seems to put their own different spin on him. He's our Moony. Anything for our Moony. Also, one last thing to add for the fandom history that I find really interesting is that Marauders fans in the 2000s were actually the first ones to come up with the idea of Remus's facial scars. In the books, Remus was never described as having scars on his face, but fan art before the Prisoner of Azkaban movie came out show him with the same scars that we still see till this day. This is a section that I didn't have in my Regulus video because I thought of it and want to add it going forward. I'm going to explain Remus's relation to the main characters and like his friends. The biggest relationship / dynamic you will see Remus in is, of course, Wolfstar. His relationship with Sirius is the most popular, and for good reason. Remus and Sirius were best friends before they became partners. They're known for slowly pining after each other and not having enough time once they finally do get together. Remus confides in Sirius, and the two see each other for who they really are and accept each other's flaws and all. Remus and Sirius were always close growing up, but end up being inseparable by 7th year. Moonflower. This is the name for the platonic relationship between Remus and Lily, by the way. And all of the other names that I will feature are platonic. Mind you, I'm not saying that these characters are shipped together. Lily and Remus have a really sweet dynamic. The two become close friends over their time at Hogwarts and end up talking more because of their shared love of reading and books. They bonded because they're nerds, and I love them for that. Another thing that helps them get along is their knowledge of the Muggle world, as Lily is a Muggle-born witch and has only ever lived in the Muggle world. They both find the wizarding world overwhelming and confusing at times. Lily is always there for Remus, and he finds her really easy to talk to. Anytime he has trouble with Sirius, it's Lily that Remus turns to for help. They understand each other in a way that no one else does. While Sirius has James, Remus has Lily. Moontail. I would like to offer that we call Peter and Remus Moonrat instead, because it's a breed of Asian possum that's honestly kind of cute. Remus is less close with Peter than he is James and Sirius, but the two still got along quite well. Peter was great at chess, and Remus liked to play and have a challenge, so they would have frequent matches. Remus liked that Peter was also hesitant about some of Prongsfoot's insane prank ideas. They were both the more chill Marauders, the more introverted ones who didn't need constant attention on them, so they would often end up being together while Sirius and James went off being insane. Wolf Chaser. Yet James and Remus's friendship doesn't have a name, so I'm just gonna call them that because I think it's funny. While Remus was likely closer to Lily than James, the two are still great friends. There's many common Wolfstar headcanons that Remus told James about his feelings for Sirius and trusted him to keep his secret. James is and has always been there for Remus. James forces Remus to 7 a.m. Quidditch practice, and while Remus pretends that he hates it, he actually really enjoys it. They're cute like that. I don't know how I feel about these names that I came up with. Maris. Mary and Remus. Despite Mary commonly being depicted as dating Sirius at some point, Remus was never able to bring himself to dislike the girl. Mary would always say hi to Remus during their lessons, and Remus, even on his grumpiest of days, would always say hi back. Once Mary found out about Remus's furry little problem, she helped to do his makeup and cover his scars. Raleen. Remus and Marlene. Marlene and Remus always got along. Remus appreciated that Marlene had a respect for personal boundaries, unlike her other friends. And the two were eager to talk shit together, being the two sarcastic friends in their overall friend group. Moonwater. This is an actual name, one that I didn't make up. It's assumed that Remus and Regulus would get along if Regulus didn't end up joining the Death Eaters. They both have dry senses of humor and could easily gossip about Sirius with each other, joining forces to point out his obvious flaws. Both Remus and Regulus are characters known for their love of books and reading, so they would likely bond over that as well. Moving on to Remus's personal style. Remus's style is very easily described as grandpa core or grandpa style. That is him. For tops, all Remus wears is grandpa sweaters. All the time. That is the main thing in his style. Brown, green, and maroon frumpy sweaters with designs on them. This is dubbed the Moony sweater. This is a Moony sweater. Yeah. For pants, Remus wears blue jeans or brown or khaki pants. Shoes are often Doc Martens, brown or black Converse, or flat dress shoes. For jackets, brown or black leather jackets, and brown jackets with lapels. For Moony accessories, star and moon jewelry, you know? Rings, gloves, books, and chocolate. Those are not things that he wears, but I swear he's constantly carrying them with him everywhere. I firmly believe that he always has a Mars bars in his pocket. Here are some of the most common and popular headcanons you will see surrounding Remus. Dyslexic Remus. This specifically comes from the fanfiction All the Young Dudes, but I'm sure it's existed outside of it as well. Many people headcanon Remus to be dyslexic. He's known for being very book smart, so it's an idea that even though he's very intelligent, he has a learning disability. This is a headcanon that exists to help people feel more represented, so thumbs up for that. Also, typically after Remus gets diagnosed with dyslexia, he ends up falling in love with books and reading. Once he's able to, like, actually take steps toward being able to read. Welsh Remus. I don't know where this started, but a common headcanon that I've often seen is that Remus is from Wales. This might be in all the young dudes, but I'm not completely sure, so do not quote me on that. This is why you'll see many videos of the other Marauders making fun of his accent. It's also just very funny to imagine first year completely posh Sirius Black not being able to understand a single word Remus is saying, but pretending that he does. Casanova Remus. This is an idea that's often thrown around in current fanfiction in the Marauders. The idea that instead of Sirius being the one that everyone is fawning over, that it's instead Remus. Remus getting all of the attention from people and not noticing nor caring. Everyone in the friend group having a crush on Remus at some point, and it being a collective experience. He uses a cane. When I was watching The Prisoner of Azkaban again, I realized that this is actually canon, but at least for when he's an adult. But a common portrayal of Remus is that he uses a cane in his teens. This is because of the physical toll that his transformations take on him. It's inferred that Remus suffers with chronic pain, so he uses a cane to help his mobility. This is also another headcanon that helps add representation to the fandom. Bassist Remus. This is a specific headcanon when it comes to music AUs. I think this was specifically very popularized by the Cadence Part-Time Poets. As a bassist myself, I very much enjoy this headcanon and deem it very real. Also, yeah, in my opinion, bass does match his personality very well, so I think he would actually very much enjoy playing the instrument. And last, but definitely not least, is Bowie Stan Remus. This is a headcanon that is practically canon in this fandom at this point. Remus Lupin loves David Bowie and thinks that he is a wizard. He and Sirius discover him in their early years at Hogwarts, and Remus becomes a giant Bowie fan. It's not a headcanon about Remus Lupin, it's a fact about Remus Lupin at this point. Some other smaller headcanons are, he really loves music, he is super tall, which is also partially canon, but he used to be portrayed as shorter, now he's portrayed as taller in headcanon, and he has a lot of freckles. Association / imagery. Remus is associated with the color brown, chocolate, David Bowie, specifically the rise and fall of Ziggy Stardust, Doc Martens, brown Converse, grandpa sweaters, very much so, the moon, cigarettes, vinyl records, and tea. As for songs, he's associated with like every single Bowie record, and also T-Rex's entire discography. If I had to pick a few songs that specifically remind me of Remus, I would say Moonage Daydream by David Bowie, Ride a Swan by T-Rex, and Cardigan by Taylor Swift, which might be a controversial take because some people will go up in arms when you mention Taylor Swift in the Marauders fandom, but I just mean that the lyrics relate to him and Wolfstar quite well, because Taylor Swift wrote All the Young Dudes, guys. That's a joke. There's a joke that Taylor Swift wrote All the Young Dudes, if you weren't aware. I'm not just making shit up and saying crazy things. When mentioning my own favorite fan works about Remus, my main one obviously has to be All the Young Dudes. All the Young Dudes introduced me to the new characterization of Remus and made me fall in love with this character all over again. He's so angsty in this fic and such a little shit, but I love him for it. He goes through a lot and learns a lot of lessons, and it's my favorite depiction of him. He feels like a really real person in this fanfiction. I love that he's incredibly silly, and most of the time his internal monologue is just, man, I wish that everyone wasn't so obsessed with girls. I don't get the appeal of dating. Can we all just leave me alone? Like, I felt that. As a teenager, me too, bro. Another very popular, well-loved depiction of Remus is him in the Cadence of Part-Time Poets, which is a Muggle band AU. Do I know a lot about this fic? No. Do I enjoy the vibes that I've seen so far? Yes. Drop your Remus fic recs because I unfortunately am empty-brained and I read way too much Regulus, so I can literally only think about fics involving James and Regulus. So please leave some recommendations and your own favorite Remus fan works because I literally cannot think of anything other than All the Young Dudes. I have no thoughts. I'm so sorry, Remus. And that's everything. That's Remus. Remus Lupin, the man, the myth, the legend, the Casanova of Gryffindor Tower. Remus is and has always been really popular, and I doubt that his popularity will ever dip. He just remains to always be like that character that people think about when they think of the Marauders fandom. So Hats off to Remus. Truly, we wouldn't be where we are today without him. Thanks to this- oh god, I almost threw him. Thanks to this guy. Love you, King. Look at this guy with his little Marauders map. You know, I feel like they made this Funko Pop specifically to get money for Marauders fans, and unfortunately it has worked. Oh yeah, I forgot that I also brought out his wand for this video, and I just forgot to show it. Wand! This is Remus's wand, which is matching a lot with my sweater right now, so... which honestly that makes sense, because like I said, Grandpa core. I'll see you guys in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you're all doing well. See you next week.